All right, I'm gonna hit record. So today we are on verse 102 from Hatha Yoga Pradipika. She is verily a yogini who conserves her rajas by contracting and raising it. She knows past, present, and future and becomes fixed in kachari, i.e., consciousness moves from the higher realm. All the attainments which a man attains by perfection of Rajoli, a woman can also achieve. A woman is normally compelled to experience the mental and physical fluctuations of the menstrual cycle. The loss of energy which accompanies the shedding of menses is obligatory. It's one of those words again. Mm-hmm. However, if the ovum is withdrawn by the practice of Rajoli, this continuing loss of energy is averted, and the menstrual loss diminishes. Whereas a man is bound to the grosser dimensions of awareness by his instincts and passions, which cause his body to produce and shed spermatosa within the semen, the woman is bound to physical consciousness by the menstrual cycle. A yogini who withdraws the bindu ovum overcomes this bondage. She experiences the awakening of a higher energy force within her body, and her consciousness effortlessly expands into transpersonal awareness. This occurs very readily because a woman can intuit the nature of higher consciousness and understands the hidden power underlying acceptance and surrender, whereas a man, the barrier of personal ego many times proves insurmountable. Traditionally, woman has been regarded as the weaker sex, but it is clear that she has a greater capacity to suffer, sacrifice, and endure. Up to the menarche, the female body is as strong as the male, but with the descent of bindu and the commencement of ovulation, vitality begins to drain in the menses. A yogini who has perfected Rajoli and withdrawn the bindu becomes very powerful. Siddhis manifest more easily to a woman because her intuitive faculties are by nature more highly evolved. She has actually always been aware of them in a rudimentary dormant form. A woman is more aware of her own subconscious mind and that of others if she can withdraw the bindu by Rajoli. The individual consciousness very easily moves into the universal mind, Chidakash, and the attitude of Kichari Mudra spontaneously occurs. As the tongue moves back into the upper palate, becomes fixed there without support, so the mind moves from the centers below Vishuddhi and enters the total space of consciousness where the barrier of time dissolves and the past, present, and future become known. Verse 103. Yep, go ahead.
And this is a question for Amanda. I mean, some of this, the women's virtues, the women's strengths, the women's weaknesses, et cetera, as opposed to the man's ego and so on and so forth, and the man's strengths and his virtues. How much of this is really a serious tenet of yoga, and how much of this is the weight of culture and environment on practices being established? In other words, how much of this is truly believed in yogic philosophies, and how much of this is just plain straight up sexism on all levels?
Well, so in the Bhakti tradition, it's all mixed too, and that's usually what I've studied for like cultural stuff. Like in Jnana Yoga, they don't talk about any of that. It's very like intellectual, but in Bhakti, there's a lot of talk about like the role of a woman in the householder's life and the role of the man in the householder's life. And it's a good question. Like my teacher says, it's not that the man and the woman aren't equal, it's that they are, having different experiences in the world, which is legitimate. it's legitimate that the woman's having a different experience than the man. You know, my husband's like, we joke, we make a graph. He's like straight line across. And as a woman, you're literally fluctuating every month because your mood is affected by the hormones. And, you know, it's not that you can't do everything a man can do, but you have to do it while you're like inhibited sometimes. I mean, what are your thoughts on it? I feel like there's legitimacy to this idea that, you know, a woman is experiencing something differently.
Yeah,
And
I would never be as rigid as to say men and women are identical and they have total and complete equitable capabilities, for example. On the other hand, this kind of thing is just so, it's, to my mind, it's kind of divisive. So for example, when they talk about women having greater intuition, or however she placed this, and a greater ability to get into the Kachari mudra, you know, an easier ability to do that. I think it's simply not true, despite the fact that women do have monthly cycles, and there's some evidence that men do too. It's just that women's cycles are more powerful in terms of interaction with their body, at least the menstrual cycles. I don't, you know, I am way past menstruation, so I don't have those kinds of obvious cycles anymore, although I'm sure I have some cycles. But back to my point, my husband, for example, is far more intuitive than many women I know who are effing clueless, you know, about this stuff. And it would take them a tremendous amount of time just to learn how to be quiet. Much less to learn how to be intuitive about various things, or to listen to their own bodies, or to listen to other people. So that's why I'm asking. I mean, there are very real differences between male and female genitalia and cycles and upper body strength and so on and so forth. There's very real differences, but this just extends it to, you know, men are here and women are here, and women can do all of these things and men can do all of these things, etc. That's why I asked, you know, it's, Amanda, you said something about men and women experiencing different things. And first, when I first heard it, it sounded like men and women doing different things in their lives, which very often are built on cultural expectations as opposed to real potential, or, you know, real likes and dislikes, that kind of thing. But then, you know, you referred back to some you know, the very clear and present physiological differences. But that's why I asked.
yeah, I didn't mean like doing things. I meant like experiencing the world differently. And it could be cultural, but it's a very biological difference. You know, my husband can't birth a child or breastfeed her, or if, you know, I'm becoming a householder, that's generally what I want to do, have a family, and that entails all different things. You know, I was very like, I don't know, independent before I embarked on this particular part of my path. I felt like I could, I mean, you know, I have like a very masculine, like not gender wise, but like a very fiery, being a business owner is like not a feminine, it's not like gender wise. It's like, you can't just be fluid and relaxed all the, you can't be like go with the flow necessarily. There's like a very, there's got to be a force behind it, a hardness of like every day you're coming to it and you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it and you're doing it. And you're like, you know, it's difficult. And like, it's just, it's not as fluid as
Yeah.
the other thing.
So,
So like, once I had a kid, it was like very, very, very difficult to continue doing this role, because that requires like a very quote unquote feminine fluidity. right? The child doesn't pay attention to time or like schedules, or it's a very and the reason I was taking care of her more was because I was breastfeeding her exclusively. So it was like there was only so much time other people could spend with her. And I think like before the breast pump, that was kind of like the situation of women. Yeah.
Yeah, but Amanda, there is a difference between um, environmental constraints. So if you're breastfeeding and you don't have access to a breast pump, and even if you do, you end up you're constrained more. You have to be near your child wherever that is. You got to
Yeah.
be, because otherwise you ain't going to be able to breastfeed. But there's a
Yeah.
difference between fluidity and being able to be a hard-ass business person, which I was also. I was a chief operating officer of a large
Yeah.
company. So you sort of have to, and every day you go in, and I know what you're saying. It is a good day is when there are fewer than 4 crises that come through your.
Exactly.
That's good. I could walk out the door at 5:30. Hey, this is aces. But, and I understand what you're saying, but there is a difference between biological necessity and the kind of consciousness that allows you to be more fluid and less regimented. So I know some of these texts and the translations that, well, the basic texts themselves can be come out of a very, very old tradition when
Yeah.
possibilities were very different. So they have to be translated that way. But
Yeah.
at the core of yogic philosophy, I want to believe that there is a much greater openness about the potentialities.
I'm okay. So I get your question. From the Jnanic view, everybody's already enlightened. They're just like not paying attention to it.
Yeah.
Everybody has the same propensity to become enlightened from the Jnana view. I can't. It's funny. Amit's texting me right now. I feel like I should tell him to just come on the Zoom call because he studied all of this really extensively. Yeah, and like from what I've studied, everybody's capable of enlightenment in the same capacity. From what I've studied in my particular tradition, I haven't studied the Hatha Yoga tradition, but like you see the same thing in the Bhakti tradition when they're talking about, the roles. But again, I don't know what's tainted with culture and what's purely whatever. Like, I don't know. It's making me think of my friend. She got super into Judaism, and she was studying in Svat, which is like this very spiritual place where they sort of practice the very esoteric spiritual teachings of Kabbalah. And they were teaching her that the reason why the women don't study intensely, and you can say whatever you want about the culture of it. It's the reason why women don't study intensely, she was saying, isn't because they're being oppressed. It's because at the core essence, they believe that women have easier access to spiritual knowledge, that the men are sort of bound by their more forceful nature, that they are bound by their minds essentially, so they need to be disciplined and be taught all the information. But women like inherently can know the information. I mean, but again, like we were talking about gender yesterday, right? It's like everybody's feminine. And then Paratman, like according to Jnana, Paratman is the masculine. So I don't know. There's always going to be individual basis. I didn't when we were reading it, I didn't catch it like it was an all or nothing thing, wherein like no men can get there, or you know what I mean?
Yep, I hear you, and maybe I'm very sensitive because of my own background, but when I look around at people and how they function, when you get past the very real constraints that a biological necessity imposes on us at certain times in our lives, It's sort of like, the woman who is studying Judaic philosophy, and the reason why she doesn't study it, women don't study as much is because they have greater access to spirituality. Oh, please, cut me a break. I had a boss who my God, if she comes back as a slug, I'm going to be impressed, because that'll be, I have such trouble with that, and it is so divisive, and it just sets up such bizarre expectations in people's minds. It causes my mouth to just drop open when I hear people say certain things. It's like a form of racism that is still accepted. It's an ism that's still accepted.
Sexism.
Sexism is an ism that is still accepted, on a much greater level than racism is. And, enlightenment comes slowly, and maybe years down the path, if we haven't blown ourselves up, maybe, some of that will have been addressed in a clearer fashion, and some of the nonsense will be rejected. But
Well, we're in a time where less people are going to be enlightened in Kali Yuga. It's not going to be an easy thing for people, and it's not going to be a common thing for people. So, most of the people that we come across are not going to be self-aware in this lifetime. So, I like, you got to take what works for you, and, leave what doesn't work for you. If this isn't aligning with your internal experience, then it's not for you. And I had to go through a lot of different, teachings and lineages until I arrived at the one that was for me, because the Vedas teach that we all have different proclivities. Some people are going to sort of lean more into that, of what she's teaching, and say, yeah, this resonates with what I feel. And other people are not. So you have to go with, I feel like you're more of an intellectual anyway. So Jnana is probably going to be your path as well. And it teaches that everybody is spiritual, and each Atman spiritual is capable of enlightenment. That's like our birthright as human beings. We can experience enlightenment in the lifetime that we choose to experience it. That's not going to be everyone.
yeah.
Because a lot of people don't want that, right? A lot of people want to experience the material and, have power in the material and get all the money and have all the power. And they're just not interested in this leg of life. Like that slug woman you're talking about, probably.
Well, I would say that material guy would be an Eric. And I'm not saying it in a bad way. I'm just highlighting, like, it doesn't have to be a bad person. Like,
right, it just is what it is.
Yeah, like Eric just doesn't believe in, like, I said something about Kramer having a soul the other day, and he's like, Kramer, we don't have souls. That means there would be an afterlife. Like, and he's very matter of fact about it. And I'm not going to change his mind. I'm not going to bother. Like, this is his path, this life, and he is who he is. Yeah, and definitely, like, he's not a bad person, but you can see, like, he's very, like, he needs the big TV. He needs the money. Whereas I'm like, give me the money and I'm going to give it right back out to the world.
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you for.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Listening.
I think like when I hear those things, like you just said about that Jewish example, like me too, Sue. Like, I want to be like, absolutely not. That is crazy talk. But then if you like, what would make that okay in my mind, and what makes it not okay, is that, are the men learning from women, or are the men learning from men? Because if the men are learning from men, then I feel like they're oppressing women. But if the men are learning from women because they truly feel that they are spiritually advanced or know the information already, and they want to learn it that way, then I do think that they truly believe what they're saying. But otherwise,
the women learn from women. Like, she would learn from a Rebbitzin, which was the wife of the rabbi, and then the men would learn from the men. It was like very separate.
which is that stuff that is what annoys me.
Well, in the Vedas, like in the ancient Vedas, I just read something the other day that women were gurus. Like it was not it only like more recently in like this time of darkness became like a masculine thing, that it was not always like that there were like very, very famous female gurus.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about this last night, but because something happened, so it made me think about something. And I think about like I feel happy that women like body women are able to experience both feminine and masculine, let's call them emotions or whatever. Like as a woman body, I can experience both male and female. Like Amanda was just saying, like as a business owner, I'm in business. I can act like a man, if let's call it that. But I feel strongly that, especially in our culture in America, that men have not been taught how to act like a woman. And I'm starting to feel like this is where, let's call them problems or issues, lie. Is that, and Glennon Doyle talks about this in her Untamed book a tiny bit, where she opens the shower and she has a son and 2 daughters. And she says at this moment she has a son and 2 daughters until they tell me otherwise. So she's just explaining that this is who she has now. And so she has a boy and 2 girls. And on the boy side of the shower, it's like strong and manly, and I'm gonna blah. And then on the girl side, it's like, I smell pretty. And she was like, even the marketing we're getting to remind us, like, a man's not allowed to just go sit and experience his female emotions. He's got to dig it down. And so I think your husband's the exception, Sue, in this intuitive thing, because I just don't think they're taught to do it. And if they feel it, they don't know how to like use it. They think like, oh, something's wrong, and then they turn it into bad. Because I feel like I know way more bad narcissistic ego male than I know intuitive sensitive male, because they think that's like wrong. And I think we need more of those. That's just my own personal opinion. But that's what I was thinking about last night.
When you said at the beginning that you would feel much more comfortable if some of the Orthodox gentlemen who felt that women had a much more intuitive sense of spirituality were actually learning from women. I thought that was a very interesting statement.
No. Wait, that the men were learning from women, not
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And for me, I would feel much better if it was recognized that there are some women who would like to learn in the same style as the Orthodox men do in yeshivas from a rabbi, and that the door was open the other way as well, so that boys who felt that they were more comfortable learning in the circle of women could go into that circle of women and learn that way. But that's not the way it is, and there are some very serious cultural boundaries that just are never broken. They're not broken, and if they are broken, then you move to a different kind of Judaism,
Yeah, but it's just like what Amanda's saying, like maybe then that's not that path for the woman, and maybe she does have to change path. Like,
my problem with that is that it is very difficult sometimes to break out of those paths.
Yeah.
Into who you are, because you are raised within a particular culture and within a particular group, and some groups are much harder to break out of than others. And sometimes if you break out of a particular group and you try learning or growing in a different way to find the path that's more aligned with, and resonates with you, you are shunned or discarded by the very place that brought you up, which is heartbreaking for many people. And it's to my mind, it's crazy stuff. It's more divisiveness. It's not that we're all the same, because we sure as hell are not. To my mind, it's more than, you don't have to construct the wall between Mexico and the United States between us because we're different. You just have to say, well, alrighty then. You know, Amanda, as you say, you find your path, the path that resonates, the path that allows you to grow and develop. But you have to be allowed that, and you still have to have the support of the people who were there for you at the very beginning, for example. And
well, often you're not going to get that support.
yeah,
It's very rare to change, you know, what you want to do and do a different religion or do different, you know, spiritual practice. It's very rare to be able to do that and have support.
I feel like on a different level, I've experienced this in the sense that my mother and I haven't spoken to each other since I was 16 years old, and she passed when I was 32. So for 16 years, we hadn't spoken. I don't speak to anyone in my family. And so it's not that but it's me following my path. Like, I feel like this is the right thing. And so I've argued with not argued, but I've tried to explain this to so many people that just because it's family, it doesn't mean that I have to let them treat me that way. Like, I've told them numerous times, you cannot treat me this way or I'm going to walk away. And they continue to treat you that way. And so some people just have to, like, I had to get out of that. I did not have a choice. I would not have survived my mental, physical, or emotional health if I did not get out of that. And so I feel like these people that feel so strongly that they have to get out of whatever path they're on and get into the next one will do it. And they'll feel the support. I spent a Christmas Eve alone and Christmas Day alone when I was like 17 or 18 years old, because there was nowhere to go. But I still did not give in to it. Like, I would have rather have been alone and shunned and wind up on the right path than keep going down the wrong path. And I get that not everyone experiences that, but maybe that was just a moment in my life that it was like a light was shining down, like, no, stay where you are. You're on the right way. So if people can really listen to their intuition like that. I know it's not the same example, but it's a little bit.
I think some people can do what you did, Pam, as painful as it was, and have whatever the external and internal resources you had allowed you to do that, even though I'm sure it was very extraordinarily hurtful and painful and probably left its scars. I think for other people, it is, for whatever reason, it's much, much harder. And if they manage to do it at all, it takes years and it's at a great cost. And they might even land out in a culture that they don't understand because it's so brand new and it's hard to even negotiate. And so the fact that you had to go through what you went through is painful to hear about. It's even more painful when you're hearing about somebody who in their late 20s with 3 kids decides, I gotta leave.
Yeah.
They don't even know how to, they don't even know some of the basic mechanisms of living in the society, using an ATM, et cetera, that we, that the rest of the world has grown up with. But, I ultimately what Amanda says is true, which is that there's a lot of different paths. There's a lot of different ways to get there. And there's many times when you know what is going to hit the fan and you're not going to have the support that would have made the changes you need to make much. I don't want to use the word easier, but I can't think of a better word. So I think you're right, Amanda. I guess what I'm expressing is just frustration at this. It's very painful to watch.
I mean, you live in America, right? And you're a woman in America in the workforce. I can't even imagine how frustrated you've been in your life. I can't even imagine. Because we're not supported in either direction. It's like very difficult. It's like if you want to be the hard businesswoman, you're not really supported in that. And then if you want to be the like mother and just do the like you're not supportive of that either. It's like impossible. So I'm sure you're very frustrated.
That's very true. And some of it also you embody so much when you're young that some of it you bring on yourself. I could, in retrospect, I can see that. But for myself personally, I got really lucky that when I was fairly young and in my 20s, I met my significant other. I mean, I had a couple of significant others, but I got lucky and I met Lee. And you're right. You're not the first woman, Pam, to say he is unique. I don't think he's unique, but I do think he's very special, and he's not found as often as you would like to find him. And boy, did I luck out. Otherwise, I'd be a raving, bitchy Harridan. I lucked out.
I mean,
you're pretty cool, Sue. So makes sense that you guys are together.
I think he's the exception, and I think that's a good thing. I think we need more exceptions to the rule.
Here, need more exceptions.
So,
we got to make the world a universe full of exceptions. That's what we want.
That's the work. Amit said he was going to come into the Zoom meeting and explain Sahajoli, and I told him yesterday, we're having an issue. We're confused. Do you need to have sex to reach enlightenment? And he's like, of course they're asking you about it. And I was like, I don't know. I got to ask my teachers. And he's like trying to explain to me. I'm like, can you just come on Zoom? And he's like, give me 10 minutes. And that was at 8:02. So I don't know if that's going to interrupt the meditation today. But
maybe it's meant to be our meditation.
Maybe.
It would be nice to hear from somebody, who feels like they can help and explain this.
He studied it extensively. He said he studied in college too, or university. So
okay,
we'll see if he comes in.
Yeah, I think too, Sue, like you were saying with your husband and like comparing to other women, like I think like we have to put huge asterisks to America because of our culture. Like we can't, like I feel like what she was talking about, and I have to kind of agree with her because I do, I can get a little biased toward women versus men. I do think women are the better sex. I do think I do put some stereotypes on men, which is unfair, but I'm aware and I try to work on it. But it's just because there's been so much trauma toward men in my own life, not physical, but just like, like it's kind of, they disappoint me so many times just as like a male. It's just like really disturbing. And but I would have to sit, like, I would be curious if they did like a benchmark study of like raising, like, I think of like a tribe or some Indian books I've read where they take care of each other. Like women in the villages of some like not random, but like small villages in India where they like come together and they take care of each other. Or
it's built into the culture.
Yeah, exactly. Like when women are on their period and they're not supposed to be cooking, and the other women in the villages come together and help. They just help each other. There's so much help. There's no help here. Like Amanda's raising Isabella on her own. I mean, not really. I mean, I know you have.
Well, I have some aunties and my mom is helping, right? I have help.
I know.
It's just like in England, they literally give you money to have a nanny.
Yeah.
It's like part of your tax write-off. Like, oh, you have childcare? Well, we're gonna pay for it.
But like now, Amanda, like now you're the exception because that is so rare. That is so rare. So many, like if I was to have a child, I would be doing it by myself. There would be no help. Other, like, yeah, I have like neighbors and stuff, but it would be like me asking. It wouldn't be like built-in help.
I had to really assert myself because of all my Ayurveda training. I asserted myself when I was very pregnant, and everyone felt bad for me because I was so big and pregnant. And I said to them,
oh wait, he's coming in.
Oh, yay.
Hi.
Hi, Annette.
Good
Hi,
morning.
good morning. How are you?
Morning.
Good. Thank you so much for coming in. We're so confused.
I think we all are confused, aren't we, right? Especially in 2020.
Uh-huh.
How are you?
Some of us are more confused than others. Let's put it that way.
So, okay. So, um, before we talk about Vajroli, I want to talk a few things. As you know, Amanda, I think, love talking about Ayurveda. And in Ayurveda, we say, do you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
In Ayurveda, we say three things. In the word we use, swastham is health, and is based on not just one thing, based on three things. Are you physically healthy? Are you mentally healthy? Are you emotionally healthy? Then it comes down to the things you are healthy. And same thing in different practices we do, and overall creating balance in the body. And adjusting according to nature, and that's what the whole practice about. Now, coming back to mudras, you know when you talk about mudras, we're doing this mudra, we're doing this mudra. So think about these finger just like a wire. Some are blue wire, yellow wire, green wire. So when you take those two wire, basically the idea is the whole Ayurvedic concept. Yoga talk about one thing: we made of five elements, and everything around us is also made of five tattvas, the five elements. And balancing that is the key. So when you do this, is balancing between fire and air. So also another mudra we have, Kaki mudra, you focusing on the tip of the nose. Sambhi mudra, you half open the eyes, focusing here. So there's different mudras, and all they do just creating balance. Some help to concentrate, some help to bring awareness one place, and that's what it is. Now, uh, what's a question about? Now we're going to talk about Vajroli. Please, what's a question?
Well, we were confused in that it seemed like the author of this particular translation was saying that you need to have the union of the or like the woman needs to be pulling the sperm up. But I was thinking or like water, but she was saying like when you join the sperm, which is like cooling like the moon, and then the egg, which is hot like the sun, then you start to get Kundalini awakening and you reach enlightenment. But I thought that the
Just
solar
just to want to clarify that, because I see a little bit more clearly picture,
okay.
because that's part of the culture that I have. Just want to let you know, there is a lot of people in India. Amanda, you've been in India, specifically Babas. Babas consider like a pupil, begging street, have a just living day by live, and also they are renounced themselves as a monk. And every day, they stand in line and they get the food and so on, living the life. But when you talk to them, I mentioned this word, mental health. Sometimes they are off, not sometimes, lot of time. Why? Sometimes they will start talking and they can't stop. They just even sparking loudly. In the winter, they are walking without shoes. And the reason is simple. They been worked with Kundalini energy, but they haven't channelized the energy well. The idea is, till the material is ready, there is no talk about bringing that energy in. The material is not ready, you're bringing the force in. Another force could be drug. Material is not ready, the drugs come in. Now think about this. Wire is not ready and you're giving them very strong current. What's going to happen? Obviously some circuits, circuits issues. And that's what I say is about those people who have an issue with that kind of thing, uh, about it working with kundalini energy, but not able to channelize the energy. So, as a student of yoga, as a sadhak, we also need to first prepare this material to get that space. In your guidance of a teacher, gradually, little by little, food and so on when we go there. Now, I want to talk about a little bit about Vajroli. Why in tradition we do that and so on. I also did some experiments. So here's the thing. As you see, you can experiment on yourself. One day somebody involved in a sex, next day what gonna happen to them? Their spine is very stiff.
Hmm.
So as you see, Amanda, Rakta, Raja, Mace, Mad, the blood, the last thing come, the semen and the Tejas, the
Mm-hmm.
ore, the last thing. So it's considered the very refined energy. So now, what could be done? Another thing you will see, especially as a guy, I can talk on in a teenager time. Sometime the semens come out, even in nighttime.
Oh yeah, I've
So
heard of.
so happen, and sometime even happen so often. Now it again creating unbalance in the body is getting weak in a way. So now, is there any kriya, is there any way they can help themselves? So now first thing is, as you see, we have a root lock, right?
Mm-hmm.
Moolabandha. So there is a moolabandha, and so there is a, first of all, I don't want to go so much detail, but I just going to talk about four nadis. So you hear Ida, Pingala,
Mm-hmm.
Sushumna, and there is two more. And let me talk two more. One is Kuhu and one is Kukur. Kuhu is that control the P, and Kukur is that control the anus. And Mulabandha is actually between those two. So you're able to one time control those muscles which control your P. And another time you're able to control those muscles, you go for waist. So you're able to play with this, even those teenager kids, if you tell them, hey, practice Mulbandha, and another mudra we have also in Hatha Yoga is called Ashwani Mudra. Ashwani is the horse, the horse. You see how the horse does. They can take care of themselves. It's not going to happen to them just by applying root lock, just by practicing the Ashwani Mudra. And as a student of yoga, we always say, as a yogi, as a sadhak, often they have a good root lock. They have a good mool bandha. And now, coming down more, so the idea is to how we can also control this powerful energy, because this is also another powerful energy. And in 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 some tradition, we say that only one time we come out of the eye when we have ejaculation, like when the semen come out. That's the only time we drop this idea of I. Otherwise, I. That's what the yoga is about. I to we. That's a journey. I to we. That's what we talk about. So the whole idea, is there any way as a student of yoga, I can also control this? I can also overcome with this desire. So now there is a kriya call, is called Bajroli Kriya. So there is a lot of techniques and things we do and so on. Again, is also need to done in help with the teacher, under help with the teacher. But what do you basically do? You starting to work kuhu and kurm. One is control the P, another is NS, and then also good control of pranayama, and also lot of locks and breathing, lot of breathing required. Then what you do, you starting using catheter. Amanda, you see the rubber niti, right? You guys know the
Mhm.
rubber niti.
Mhm.
So what do you do? The rubber niti, a very thin one. You use the what do you call the oil? Sesame oil. I'm not gonna talk so much, but I use sesame oil, and so then you have that thinner catheter, like very thin one. Rubber neti we use little thicker one, but that is more thinner. And then you slowly put that catheter, and I have to tell you, is the most painful thing you can experience.
Mm, I would
And
imagine so.
yeah, and it doesn't it's not a whole experience. It's not like just goes like that. It take a lot of time, and in my area we have only one or two selected yogi. They also gone, they are master of this kriya, and you have to do under master. I'm not going to talk about it more, but then you draw the water in, then you draw the milk, and so many process you go through. But overall idea is how you can also master over this desire and so on. Again, it is a whole big subject to open up. You don't have to go into it like a woman has to do that, man has to do that. No, that's absolutely fine. Nothing need to require. Only thing for us is required is have a good lock of root lock. Hey, if I tell you exhale and then the root lock, none of us gonna be doing exhale and root lock. Then forget about this Bajroli and Sajoli. So that's out of the okay. So just practicing root lock. Okay, that's very good. Applying another mudra, tratak, all these kriyas, and then that's it. That's for primary sadhana. This technique could be done. Of course you have to follow a lot of like food and as we say is a lifestyle. You have to go through like strict diets, routine, and gradually, as I say before, when the material is ready, you can go for the higher experience too. So it's like a very advanced technique. We don't need advanced for now. Only thing we need a basic, which help, which is practical for us. So for us, applying good root lock, practicing tons of breathing, that what we need. And especially, in pandemic time, the pranayama is create just like a shield,
Mhm.
you're bulletproof. You practice 20 minutes, half an hour, tons of breathing, good locks, you're good to go. That's it. That's what we need. So important to, rather than looking for thin cat head and sesame oil. We don't need that now.
Okay.
So people are capable of just spontaneous enlightenment without doing these techniques, or do you,
we are
or
we are enlightened right now.
well, yeah, that's what I was saying earlier.
So,
Okay.
so I'm gonna read this code, and then I want to go. So I want to read this code for you guys. Probably you're gonna like it since you talk about enlightenment. All right, where is that? So I really love that, and this is kind of one of my favorite. And it's say, enjoy small things. That is the real life. Real life consists of small things. It is only the mind which think of great things. Great things don't exist. God and the nirvana and paradise don't exist. They are just mind creation. What exists are the small things. Cleaning the house, cooking the food, taking the shower, these are real things. And if you can enjoy these things, you are enlightened right now, right this moment. So I really like that. That's it.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Amit.
Thank you. Thank you. We're good?
Yeah, that helped. I mean, you girls, good.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, Amit.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you. I
Thank you.
loved the last quote. I loved it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, just basic thing, just enjoying around us. Thank you so much, guy. Enjoy.
Thank you for your guidance always, Amit. I hope you have a
Thank you.
beautiful day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was awesome that he joined. I think it was like a perfect time that he came in.
Yeah, I love Amit.
Yeah, he is he your teacher, Amanda?
Like for hatha yoga stuff, yeah, I always kind of defer to him. Yeah, he's great.
Well, it was terrific you thought to bring him in. That was what is it about somebody who is a teacher and really knows something that when they say something that really is common sense, like, you start at the simple, at the basic level, do your mula bandha, et cetera, et cetera. It made such sense. And again, tied it up. And there's something to be said for expertise, knowledge, and practice, and listening to somebody like that. So thank you for bringing it
I,
in.
I think it's the practice that does it. It's when someone's living their life with
Yeah.
their teaching that really, because I mean, that's Amanda to me. It's like I can
Yes.
study under her because she practices it, and I've
Yes.
learned that this year. Like, if I can't even say at the beginning of this year I was doing that. Like, that's how much awakened I've become with with studying this year. But now I only want to practice under teachers like Amit and Amanda, where they're living their life this way. And that's how I want to be too. Like, I don't want to be teaching one thing and doing another thing.
That's a good point, Pam. But in reference to you, Amanda, the fact that you brought in a teacher speaks to you as a teacher as much as you as a student. Very admirable.
Oh, thank you. Well, it's all by the grace of my own teachers that I know to do that. I always have someone else to defer to because I don't know too much.
That's what a good student is. Somebody who says, oh, holy crap, I don't know so much. I got and you keep going. So
Oh, thank you, ladies. You're very sweet.
Well, it is 8:32. I can lead us through a few rounds of alternate nostril breathing, and then it'll be up to anyone who wants to meditate on their own today. Or
Okay.
I think it's okay if we skip it too. I think we can give ourselves those permission slips to skip if we need to. I'm gonna hop on to work because that's
Okay.
what I need to do. But if I find I don't let this meditation be a weight on my shoulder. If I do it today, I do it. If I don't, it wasn't meant to be. I appreciated the time with Amit and
Yeah. Yeah,
Yes.
that's nice.
I'm just repeating that because I know sometimes I need to hear that. So sometimes other people need to hear that. So if you want to join me in a few rounds of pranayama because Amit just preached it so much,
We need the 20 minutes.
Yes.
Yeah.
we can do alternate nostril breathing for a half an hour. I'll lead us through a few rounds, and then I guess I don't want to end anyone's practice for them. I can leave the Zoom on until I notice no one's on. So I will say namaste and happy birthday to you, Amanda, now.
Oh, thank you.
Yes. Happy birthday, Amanda. And Pam, I'm going to sign off after the pranayama.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll sign off too. Go focus on work.
Okay.
Yeah.
I meant more like I didn't know how many rounds people wanted to do or whatever. So I'll lead us through a few rounds and then sign off when you want to sign off.
Okay.
So just pulling yourself to the present, coming back to the breath, just watching it move up and down, deepen it in and lengthen it out. Relax the face, and then bring your right hand over to your nose. Close your right nostril, inhale through your left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Inhale left. Close left, exhale right. Inhale right. Close right, exhale left. Doing a few more rounds on your own breath, adding the locks and retention if it's in your practice. Namaste, everybody.
Namaste.